All right, Mr. Bond, I'd like to start with some simple word associations. You tell me the first word that pops into your head. For example, I might say day, and you might say...
Wasted.
All right. Gun.
Shot.
Host.
Provocateur.
Woman.
Provocatrix.
Heart.
Target.
Bird.
Sky.
Gabe.
Bitch.
Sunlight.
Swim.
Moonlight.
Dance.
Murder.
Employment.
Country.
England.
Facing off. Facing off.
Done.
Why are you spinning in your chair?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
You can't handle the truth. King Kong ain't got shit on me. I am the third revolution.
I'm so much crazier than you.
I am the one who knocks.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Understand me, boy, huh? That's Brock.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful.
I present to you Facing Off, a podcast where we take two Bond movies this time that we find to be similar in some way, and we compare, contrast, and rate them.
Shocking.
My name is Siegel, Gabe Siegel, and this is my femme fatale of a co-host, Nick.
I'm your Bond girl.
Yeah, what's up, baby?
I'm your Bond girl.
Nicholas, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm well, right?
Sick.
That's how you're supposed to say it.
Yeah, you're well. You're doing well.
I'm well.
Yeah, it's going well for you.
Yes, it
life
is.
Thing.
The life is going well for me. I'm still like food hungover from the Super Bowl, but
Oh yeah, we ate, dude. We ate.
yeah, dude, belly full of blub.
Yeah,
Bottles in the blub.
Yeah, nice, man. Well, thanks for coming over for the Super Bowl. It was really fun.
Yeah, man. How are you?
I'm good. I started a new job.
Oh yeah.
I am kind of in the film industry now, so I'm kind of an industry professional.
What do you do?
I am licensed. Well, I work for a licensing company.
You have a license to company?
Yeah, I got a license
to market?
to company, dude. License to kill is actually what I have. To kill jokes and ruin flows of conversation. Yeah, man, I started a new job and it's pretty chill, and I'm finally working after 8 months of not working and doing a podcast and that being the only productive thing I've done. But it's fun.
Watched things and
I watched a lot of movies,
made lists.
and I actually am gonna watch more because I get off of work at 4:30, and on Fridays I get off of work at 2, and I'm like right next to the movie theater.
Way to humble brag, man. Well, that's good, dude. Yeah. I'm very happy that you are employed, and I'm happy that we're still able to be here tonight to cast our pod.
Yeah, we're the podcasters, man. Well, do you have any shout outs?
I have one. I got to shout out my fiance, Julie, because I steal at least one.
What up, Julie?
I got to steal at least one joke every time we do this, and she's going to really, I don't know. She's going to poison the,
Julie, just know that anytime he said something that I laughed at and I knew he wasn't capable of coming up with on his own, I gave you credit.
It's often Julie. Because she watches, most of these movies with me. But we had a great time watching these Bond movies, so...
Yeah,
this is fun.
I'm very excited about this. I got a couple of shout outs. We got a comment or we got a review from someone whose username is Daffodil11 on Apple, and you said that you liked our banter and that you're going to be tuning in for new episodes. So we're happy to have you on board. Thank you a lot, Daffodil11, whoever you are.
Daffy.
Also, same with Shane Bird. He's one of Smoley's friends from college, and Nick Doria, who was our guest last week, our hilarious guest. Thank you very much, Shane. We will keep the episodes coming, you big movie buff, you.
Just for you.
Thanks, man. And then big shout out to Rachel Viale and Kira Rohr. They came and visited for the Super Bowl, and they were talking to us a little bit about the podcast, and you guys are dope. I like you both. You're really cool. So thanks for listening.
I love being in the room when they're like, "Oh wait, is that the other guy?" Or like when we played golf and they're like, "Oh, is that?"
Pick it up on your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Andrew Berg as well, who came to the Super Bowl and was the other Niner fan supporting with me.
Yeah, I supported.
Yeah, and Nick was supporting too. But thanks for coming, Berg, and thanks for giving us feedback on these episodes. We're gonna have you on at some point, so we appreciate it, bud. Nick,
super appreciate.
We are probably gonna spoil these 2 movies, but actually, before we get into that, I'm gonna read an email from my mom. Because this has been pretty fun whenever she emails us. But this one, we might argue with a little bit, Mom. We got problems, okay?
Your voice, the tone of your voice is changing. Gabe.
Yeah, so Mom, you named this email opinions. I have lots of them. So you said some stuff about Bohemian Rhapsody, and you agreed that Steve Jobs is better because, except for Seth Rogen, she also said. She says, although it is obvious, I hadn't really thought of a clever way that okay, that's about Steve Jobs. So she said, I, like millions of others, was deeply entertained by Bohemian Rhapsody. I loved it and the performance. I've seen it 2 times, once with a friend who, like me, really wanted to see it again on the big screen. Losers. I wasn't much of a Queen fan. Boom. There's the explanation. Or so I thought, but watching it made me realize how much I've loved a lot of their music. As a matter of fact, some of my favorites. I talked to a couple of Queen fans who were upset about the inaccuracies, so that is indeed a problem, especially in this age of Google. We just have to know the, in quotes, truth right here, right now. It may be a similar problem as when people have read the book first, too many preconceptions and internal images to be able to sit back and let the story happen. I had read reviews that talked about how hard Rami practiced to emulate Freddie. No. And I did not research to see if this was true. I actually love the energy and zest of his performance and how they filmed the songs. I think he did a great job of both being arrogant and insecure at the same time. I felt uplifted at the end. If I had stopped to analyze it, I am sure the many places in the story that were ridiculous and unbelievable would have been a total put-off. Being forced to look up into his mouth at the bizarre tooth prosthetic repeatedly was disgusting. Many flaws in its execution, but I did like the editing, so to each their own. No, it's not to each their own. The editing is objectively not good. It just may not have bothered you. With all that in mind, I think why it worked and spoke to so many people is that the screenwriters structured it as hero's journey. I know a biopic is supposed to be true, as is all historical fiction, but the stories that have lasted over time have been classic hero's tales. Guess what? That's the problem, is that they just did the hero's tale. They lied about it. It wasn't even right to his legacy.
Yeah, I think it just makes it not boring, but it's just it's not it's not a movie that was created to be artistically savored.
Yeah, but
it's like a movie that was created to entertain, and it entertained lots of people. It's fun.
So
I get it. It's fun.
So she said
it's just not meant to be savored, and if you savor it, then you start to notice how deeply flawed it is.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. She also said, so to end that, she said that, sometimes you embellish it and they want to tell stories that inspire, and she really likes those. So she said that's why she thought both of the superhero movies we did last week were awful to her. She says, I didn't care about any of them, and they were so unheroic. Captain America movie was visually chaotic. I actually walked out the first time I tried to see it because of the back and forth camera was so annoying I felt like I was going to hurl. But I went and saw it again and still thought it was confusing and boring. I felt like I needed some cliff notes or something to follow the interactions of the various superheroes because I had no idea about their motivations or connections. In my honest opinion, comic book movie stories and their heroes are supposed to be somewhat easy to follow. Then she goes on and talks about how Marvel movies have gotten bad because they're no longer just the hero story. Guess what, Mom? That's called character development and building a franchise. And if Captain America was all about just developing the hero story of Captain America and Iron Man all the way back at the beginning, we would just be rehashing the same movie.
Do you know off the top of your head how many Avengers movies there are?
There's probably a ton. There's 22.
There are probably a ton. Nailed it.
There's 22.
Okay, so let's stick with 22. If there were 22 heroes' tales, sign me right the fuck off.
Yeah, I'm actually getting tired of seeing.
I'm done.
One thing I loved about
after
Captain
2.
America is that we don't get that with Spider-Man. They're not just rehashing the whole origin story, which is a hero's tale. This is
But I mean, your
building
mom is right too. Like they are, if you are not versed in Avengers or honestly in any comic book story, it's convoluted and confusing.
right. But
I mean, if you
then don't watch it. This is for us.
Yeah, if you deep dive on any Wikipedia like comic page, you're gonna find a bunch of crazy crap that just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, totally.
All of those stories are convoluted.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
you
think
pull
that
any of the
comic
threads.
stories are meant to be like simple. Maybe their origin story,
But I mean, you can't knock a movie for being a little more complex than a simple hero story.
yeah.
But I guess it doesn't work for you, Mom. Sorry. Thank you for the extremely long
It comes down to
email.
that question of is it meant to be like savored or not? And I
Right.
mean, yeah.
Is this a real life or is this just fantasy? Hey, Nick, let's move on. Hey, Mom, thanks for sending the email. I do appreciate your
Keep them
opinions.
coming. And
Yeah.
to be fair, you're angry at this email, but I did ask for the opinion of someone who liked the movie.
A layperson.
And now we have it. A laywoman.
Yeah, okay, so we are going to be talking about Casino Royale and
Yeah.
Skyfall 2.
Oh, yeah, we haven't said that yet.
James Bond movies, and we're going to spoil them. So if you haven't seen them, go watch them.
All right.
It's kind of ridiculous if you haven't.
All right. Casino Royale versus Skyfall is our episode today. We've chosen these two movies because they are the first of the Bond and M, what is that? Like motherly love cycle.
She was in the
between
Pierce
them.
Brosnan ones.
I know,
the
this is
connection,
this
for
is the Daniel Craig connection, and then the end of her little saga in the Daniel Craig Bonds. And Casino Royale is sort of a reboot. In Casino Royale, Bond gains his 00 status for the first time in an epic pre-credits sequence. M, Bond's boss, played by Dame Judi Dench, tells Bond that he must investigate the funding of terrorism. He tracks down and kills a bomb maker, takes his mobile phone. That's an oversimplification of an incredible scene. Searching through the phone, Bond discovers a text message which he traces to a man named Alex Dimitrios. He wins Dimitrios' Aston Martin DB5, which is my favorite car of all time, and also bangs his wife. And then he goes on to find the financier, Le Chiffre. Le Chiffre, you have to do his name.
Le Chiffre.
Nice.
Yeah.
His investments involve short-selling stock and success. That's hard to say. Short-selling stock in successful companies and then engineering terrorist attacks to sink their share prices. Le Chiffre's eye bleeds sometimes also because evil. Bond foils Le Chiffre's plan to destroy the prototype Skyfleet airliner, which forces Le Chiffre to set up a high-stakes poker tournament at the Casino Royale to recoup his fortune. Bond is instructed to beat Le Chiffre and is aided by a member of the Treasury named Vesper Lynd. He is also aided by a man named Felix Leiter, a CIA operative. Bond beats Le Chiffre at the poker table, but Lynd is shortly thereafter kidnapped by Le Chiffre, as is Bond, who is captured while pursuing them. Lynd is ransomed for the money and Bond is tortured. Bond learns that his poker winnings were never repaid to the Treasury after Le Chiffre is subsequently killed by Mr. White, a liaison between Le Chiffre and a number of his clients. After Bond finds out that that money was not actually repaid to the Treasury, Lynd was supposed to have done it. Bond establishes that she was actually a double agent. He pursues her, is attacked by members of White's organization, and survives, but White takes the money, and Lynd sacrifices herself in exchange for Bond's life. As he later finds out from M, Bond subsequently finds and captures White. In Skyfall, Moneypenny, at the request of M, takes a shot, misses her mark, and hits Bond, who falls into a river. Bond is missing and presumed to be dead, but actually he's taking shots of booze with scorpions on his hands and having dozens of island natives just cheer him on. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty
He's mostly drunk for an indiscriminate amount of time during his recovery from that fall into a river. In the aftermath of Bond's death, but not actual death and just like a rage binge, questions are raised over M's ability to run the Secret Service, and she becomes the subject of a government review over handling the situation. The service itself is attacked, prompting Bond's return to London. He meets the new Q, brutally fails a competency test because he's still hammered off the scorpion booze, but is told that he passes the test. MI6 uncovers a lead. They send Bond to Shanghai and Macau in pursuit of a mercenary named Patrice. There he establishes a connection to Raul Silva, a former MI6 agent who was captured and tortured by Chinese agents. Blaming M for his imprisonment, Silva sets into motion a plan to ruin her reputation before murdering her. Bond saves M, drives her through the Scottish countryside in another DB5, which is the same one from Casino Royale,
Yeah.
I guess, and attempts to lure Silva into a trap at Bond's childhood home, which is called Skyfall Manor.
Yeah.
While he is successful in repelling Silva's assault, M is mortally wounded and dies. Bond returns to active duty under the command of the new M, Voldemort.
You can't say his name. Yeah, that's a great, excellent synopsis. Yeah, we're doing these two movies because they're both recent and the
I
most
got lazy
popular.
and copied
of
Wikipedia,
Yeah,
but added my own jokes.
but so we're doing these because they're the most popular and of the two, or of the, what is it now?
The Craig
five?
Bonds. Yeah.
5 Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
Bond
it will be
movies.
5 in April.
It's also really good timing because Sam Mendes
Right.
and Roger Deakins' new movie 1917 are probably going to take all the awards this
And
this weekend.
the newest and final Daniel Craig Bond film is due out in just a couple months in April.
Yeah, it
About
is.
a week before my birthday.
Yeah, No Time to Kill. That's going to be sick.
No Time to
okay,
Die.
Nick, let's get in. No Time to Die. It's always a time to kill.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we are going to rate these movies with our 5
Yikes.
categories. We have a new
I
category.
am scared now. I'm in a room with a man who said it's
Hey,
always time
man,
to kill.
just let me grab this knife real quick.
All right, 1 to 7. 1 is
Yeah.
the worst. 7 is the best. 4 is the middle. Means
With the hairy
average.
chest. Yeah. And we're going to do 5 categories: spectacularity, acting, eye candy, originality, and a new Bond category, license to thrill.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so we'll get into those. Let us start, Nick, with spectacularity, which is the engagement level of a movie. Whether you were really entertained by it or you were distracted by the runtime and worried about it the whole time and you just didn't care. You couldn't even be bothered about watching it. Let us start with Casino Royale. Spectacularity. Nick, start it off, big boy.
Okay, so the first time that I saw this movie, absolutely would have given it a 7.
Right.
Upon at least 2 more rewatches, maybe there's a third snuck in there sometime since high school. I am going to give this a 5 now.
Whoa.
The first time I saw these, I'm probably going to have reversed my scores for them, but I think a lot of that is hype. It's kind of funny what hype can do. Casino Royale was hyped way up. I was really into Chris Cornell at the time too.
Also.
Yeah, I was also really into Chris Cornell, so I was like obsessed with the
From
song.
Counting Crows.
No, dude. All right, turn the podcast
Smashing
off.
Pumpkins?
No. Oh my God. Soundgarden, and also
that's right.
and
I love
also
Soundgarden.
and also Audio Slave.
I mean, I like some songs.
Dude, Chris Cornell's like such an amazing rock vocalist. Anyways,
Yeah. R.I.P.
the score is really interesting though. Speaking of Chris Cornell, I want to focus on this for this section because it's like a weird thing that I noticed.
Yeah.
The score in Casino Royale is derived from the
Theme.
theme song, not from the James Bond theme song, from the Chris Cornell song.
Wow.
And it's really interesting because like 3/4 of the way through the movie, I can't remember, there's an event that happens and then there's the Bond theme. The classic dun 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 dun
Yeah.
comes in like later in the movie. Mostly the theme is not that, which is just like a weird thing that I was like focused on for some reason in the movie, but it kind of has this convoluted plot that if you are watching it in your home, you have a lot of opportunities to not pay attention and lose track of what's happening.
And so that took you out of the
That took me
engagement.
out of it. I don't think it's like a perfect like movie in terms of how engaged you are in it and in the plot. But I mean, having watched it and been like stoked for Daniel Craig to play James Bond in 2006, I would have given it a 7 back then for sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing when I saw it in theaters.
Right. I think I'm like right there with you that I thought it was a 7 when I first saw it. I mean, I remember loving it so much when I first saw it. I thought it was so cool the way that I had always been a James Bond fan. My mom just reminded me that I guess I went through like a huge James Bond binging phase of all the Sean Connery movies when I was a kid. I gave it a 6 out of 7. I think what I really want to give this movie credit for is that they managed to make something that isn't like textbook thrilling, like not like a thriller.
The poker game?
With a high stakes like poker game into something that's so entertaining to watch, even if you don't understand poker. Like I was watching with Danny and she didn't really know, like I just taught her how to play poker and like she didn't really know what was happening, but it's super, I think a lot of it is the charm level of Bond with Le Chiffre, like expertly played by Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, he's so good.
Really keeps you into it. I think it's slightly distracting to have that character Mathis on the side talking to Vesper and be like, oh, see, he's doing this here and he's doing that. And I'm like, shut the fuck, I'm watching this.
Mathis.
Yeah, he sucks.
That's a great line in that movie.
He's saying really super obvious stuff to Vesper, too. I always forget about
he's the bad guy.
I always forgot
Spoiler alert.
about the airport scene. Like, whenever I think of Casino Royale, I don't think of that airport scene, and it's just
The
pure
chase?
thriller entertainment. Yeah.
With that dude that's 100% just a Terminator.
Dude, yeah, he looks like the Terminator, and then when he puts the bomb on his belt loop, I was like, oh, this Bond is so sick. I truly believe this Bond was like an absolute thug at that point. The whole poisoning sequence I forgot about is so entertaining when Bond briefly gets poisoned while playing the poker game, casually walks out, freaks out, goes to his car, almost dies in his car.
Yeah.
Vesper happens to get there at the very last second to resuscitate him, and then he pops back into that card game. I was like, I'm strapped the fuck in. So I give it a 6 out of 7. I just find it really entertaining, even though I think it's the least thrilling of
Absolutely.
all Bonds.
As I was trying to pay attention to the plot of this, I was like, there's a lot of stuff happening here.
It pulls you out. Yeah. All right.
It
So
is
let's talk
interesting
about,
that Le Chiffre's like thing is he short sells. Try saying short sells stocks.
He's like
Try saying short sells stocks successfully 5 times
like,
fast.
Short sell stocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's like Michael Bauman, the guy that Christian Bale plays.
He like orchestrates terrorists. Yeah, it's so cool. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree. So that was a 5 out of 7 from Nick and a 6 out of 7 from me. Let's talk about Skyfall.
Okay.
Why don't you go with spectacularity?
All right, you want me to lead off?
Yeah.
All right, Skyfall is a much more classic Bond movie.
Mm-hmm.
Casino Royale is, like I said, it's like a reboot.
Right.
Like he's not Bond. Oh, he's Bond, but he's not 007 at the very beginning of this movie. He gets
like
his
gritty.
Yeah. He's pretty
new-
raw.
yeah, right.
And Skyfall is like a very classic kind of Bond film where he's struggling with his identity as James Bond.
Right.
And he's like, he's been knocked out of commission. He was knocked out of commission by like a maternal figure to him and M and his boss and someone he trusted or thought he trusted. And it's like,
it's really existential.
it is the first time that and a lot of Bond movies are kind of existential. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Where he has that issue.
Well, especially Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, the first time I saw this, I would have given it like a 4 or 5. But this time through, I was way more into the character development of James Bond. And there are some lulls, so I'm going to give it a 6 and not a 7.
Yeah.
Like when he's in Shanghai is kind of like a...
Yeah, except the scene when he's fighting the dude in that building is one of the most...
Yeah.
It's one of the most insanely shot scenes I've ever seen, with all the glass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is the score. Because I'm obsessed with the James Bond theme. I always have been, because I used to play the video games a lot as a kid.
Right.
And just was like so into the theme.
Yeah.
The way that Skyfall uses the Bond theme is perfect.
Yeah.
There are like multiple variations of it. It uses the slowed down version that's like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
And it's like so cool sounding.
Very like intentional.
And then when the DB5 again comes out in this movie, they play the old school Bond with the like
with the like.
Yeah. with the
So cool.
like little like drum rolls. It's awesome.
I totally agree.
Highlights for my highlight scene in Casino Royale is the nut busting scene, and my highlight in spectacularity is everything that happens in Skyfall Manor.
Oh yeah, the whole
Everything. The ending of this movie is amazing.
So I actually gave it a 6 as well. So the same as I did with Casino Royale out of 7. I gotta say, the opening to Casino Royale with the parkour chase is one of the most insane. I mean, that's not actually the opening; it's a few scenes later,
So
but
good.
it's one of the most insane sequences. But the opening of this movie is so thrilling when he's chasing the dude and fighting on the train, and I guess like Daniel Craig did those stunts.
Yeah.
A lot of his own stunts.
He was like very injured.
Yeah, he got really injured. The way that he jumps into the train and like fixes his suit is so cool. And then I remember gasping.
Man.
I remember in the theater when M is like, take the shot, and Moneypenny shoots. Well, you don't know she's Moneypenny at that time, but she shoots Bond and he falls. I was like, what? Is this You Only Live Twice? Which is like, I fucking love that. We'll talk about it later. I was like strapped in. And then you go into one of the best Bond theme openings with Adele. And the way that they do the Bond theme is so cool. So quick, but I also really love the scorpion shot scene.
Dude.
Especially because it smoothly transitions to him still being there, depressed and still drinking in the morning.
Dude, and he's like literally drunk for like 48 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the
He flies to the UK after that and takes a competency test while still hammered
I'm
on
glad
scorpion
that you mentioned
booze.
that because I really like the competency test scenes because I think they give you an understanding of how vulnerable he is at this time, like this Bond that we're seeing. But I do think it's kind of a distraction to the story as a whole, that scene, and that's kind of what knocked it down.
Yeah.
I will say everything with Raul Silva, Javier Bardem's character, is the most it's the most engaged I can be in a movie. It's like him and Heath Ledger's Joker are like the most captivating villains I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I kind of hate when he's not on screen. I really like the action scene when he like crashes the parliamentary like meeting where they're like talking about getting rid of the 00 program and stuff. And then he has the tube or whatever like almost crash into Bond through the wall. I'm just like so strapped in for that last act. It's really like it's really human while it's like very exhilarating and visually stunning. And it's basically like Home Alone, but like a gritty adult version of Home Alone. And I love that. So that's a 6 out of 7 for me and a 6 out of 7 from Nick. Let's move on to our next category, actoring.
Okay.
What is actoring?
Actoring is are the actors believable in their roles? Are they delivering a believable and honest performance? And beyond that, do we believe they've been given the tools by the writers and the directors in order to give the performance, the best performance possible?
Yeah, it's encompassing all of it.
Right. So we try and lump a bunch of stuff together.
Start with Skyfall. All right, you want me to start?
Why don't you start for Skyfall on actoring?
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 7. It's not a drama movie, so it's not like big. It's not important to be really well acted, but I think like Javier Bardem on his own brings this category up to a 6.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's like I said, it's a lot like Joker, but it's also like him as Anton Chigurh. Yeah, when he pulls his teeth out.
Ow, it hurt. I touched my mouth and the inside, it hurt.
Mother, look what you've done, or whatever. It's so good. He's like, and all the little rats, and they come down here, and you have changed their nature. Yeah. I kind of wish I did that at the beginning. Also, really good. It's pretty good. Really good acting. I mean, it's like spectacular acting as by Judi Dench in her final Bond role. She's been, I think, in like 7 or 8 movies, and she's incredible. I really love the casting of. I always loved Q in the old Bond movies, and I really love the casting of a young Q to be doing the technology
Still has
stuff.
his spots.
Ben, yeah, he's like, my complexion is not any business to it, like whatever. Yeah, Ben
Also, he
Winshaw is
doesn't.
great. Yeah, he doesn't have acne. It's also really good on them, and they do this with casting Jeffrey Wright as Felix, but really cool on them for casting Naomi Harris as Moneypenny, because it throws everyone off, and Naomi Harris is a great actress. She was nominated.
Dude, she's so good.
So because she was doing this, when she was in Moonlight, when she's incredible in Moonlight, she only shot for 10 days on Moonlight because she didn't have time because of this, and she ended up getting nominated for it. I love the side performances by like underrated English actors. So there's Rory Kinnear, who we know from Penny Dreadful, who's great. Albert Finney, who's one of the most legendary English actors of all time, plays the gamekeeper.
Yeah.
And then Ray Fiennes, who's like the best. He's so good. And I love him as M. But I really want to take like time to talk about Bond, because this is the most dramatic Daniel Craig gets as Bond. He kind of gets it with Casino Royale, but this is like... The silent acting of him drinking alone is so believable. Him doing the tests and stuff is like, he's just so
where he
vulnerable
walks forward while shooting.
and gritty. Yeah. And it's the first time you truly just see how human he is. That he's this like secret agent and he's like perfect at everything. And regardless of how talented and violent he is, he's like, he has this troubled past and he's human. And I think that's really benefited a lot by his performance, but also by Mendes's direction. Because he kills it. And, you know, the relationship between M and Bond is so expertly done by Sam Mendes to show... like the difference between what loyalty does.
I think all three of the things in this category all come together in that dynamic in Skyfall.
Yeah.
The writing, the directing, and the acting between Judi Dench and Daniel Craig are amazing in their relationship.
You know, it kind of felt like they sat down and they really who are these characters really? What's the deep part of these characters? And that's cool.
Yeah, why do they have this connection? Like, why are they more than just boss and underling? Like, why are they? How can they come back from her saying, you know, take the shot? And like the obvious stress that it caused him.
You should have trusted me to finish the job.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the writing is great in both, but I'm gonna give a slight nod to Casino Royale in the writing just because of some of the dialogue. The dialogue. But if we're gonna stay on Skyfall, I'll give the huge nod to. In terms of directing to Skyfall,
right?
Because Skyfall is an amazingly put together movie.
Yeah,
and I did not. It's so funny. I just did not appreciate it the first time that I saw it.
I don't think a lot. It's artsy. It's artsy.
But on this rewatch, like it's so well put together. That whole final sequence
in
Skyfall. Like I know that it's more like the action-y sequences, but. Just everything about Bond and how menacing Javier Bardem is in those final sequences when he approaches Skyfall, and just how like overconfident the way that he moves is Javier Bardem, and just driven, like that he's just this like predator and he has one like person on his in his crosshairs, and it's M, and he's just like this. He even kind of like stalks her through like wilderness kind of, as he kind of sees the flashlight out in the distance, and the way that that's done is amazing.
Yeah,
the directing there is amazing. It's just like, I mean, Bardem is obviously a standout. And that's like, he doesn't even really come close to any of the other Daniel Craig villains. Like, he's obviously, I think, the best
we'll see how Rami Malek is. He looks really cool.
I don't know how he could beat Javier Bardem.
It's so good.
I don't think he could beat Javier Bardem. I just don't think so. I don't know. There's too much to say that you already haven't, though.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Or you already have?
Well, then start it up with. So you what did you give it?
A 6.
Yeah.
And I gave Casino Royale a 6 as well.
Okay, cool. Talk about Casino Royale.
There's like no one to single out as being like a poor performance. I think Ava Green is fine. I don't like love her in this, but she's good. A lot of the dialogue is extremely well written, which is why I think I give a slight nod in writing to Casino Royale. I think there's a bigger task there in trying to restart things with Daniel Craig, and there's kind of a risk taken that it's like a reboot. Kind of, where he's
it's a reboot, but they also want to make it interesting.
Right. Jeffrey Wright is also great.
So good. And it's funny to have like he's supposed to be like Bond's counterpart in the CIA, but he's not like handsome like Bond, but he's just he's just
like
cool.
But he's like admittedly not. Like he's like, you're a better poker player than I am.
Yeah.
I have the money.
Yeah.
I could back you up.
He's so cool in all of them. I'm excited to see I think the new one is going to be like a lot about their relationship.
There's also a great joke about the CIA there too.
Oh yeah.
He says like
we have all the money basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're not a big deal for us to give away money or something.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And Miles Michelson. Madsen?
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
What?
Miles Mickelson.
Oh, I put Miles Mikkelsen.
No,
Mads
Mads
Mikkelsen.
Mikkelsen.
Is also fantastic.
So
but he's
good.
very subtle.
Yeah.
It's
His
great.
is different. It's really cool when he's like, in the end, when he's torturing Bond, is when he's super cocky.
Yeah. I'll talk about it more in originality, why it's like a good casting choice, but yeah.
Sure.
Excellent.
Any other
I
notes
gave him
about
both 6.
Casino Royale? Oh, you gave it a 6?
In terms of the acting, no. I want to talk about other stuff for it, for sure.
I gave it a 5, a little bit lower. I think that this is Daniel Craig, obviously, taking his turn as Bond and just absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
He kind of has this essence of like cool and smooth that I hadn't seen before. It kind of reminds me of Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But it's like somehow more suave.
Yeah.
His cockiness and all the scenes in the first hotel are so cool. The way he like takes that guy's valet thing and then just destroys the car and walks through.
Yeah, he doesn't say any. Yeah.
It's the way he walks, and you get a glimpse of how intense and funny Daniel Craig is, because you think Daniel Craig is super funny because he has been in like Knives Out. He's great. You haven't seen yet, but he's incredibly funny, so that was cool. I think Eva Green as Vesper is one of the best Bond girls, if not the best. Probably the most like equal to Bond.
Yeah.
She's really hard to read, but she's also just so cunning and charming.
There's something about her that makes that twist that she's a bad guy the whole time.
You just know it's happening.
Yeah, like not as shocking or cool.
Well, actually, so I have an issue. The reason why I brought it down to a 5 is I kind of have an issue with the character writing, and I think it's kind of a problem for a lot of Bond movies other than Skyfall. It's just how quick Bond falls in love with these girls and stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the girls falling in love with him. I mean, he's Daniel Craig. Have you seen him walking out of the ocean?
Have you seen his
insane.
shoulders? He
Yeah.
looks like
The Hobbit is
Laker era Dwight Howard.
I know
but
he
bigger.
does. Superman. Especially when they passionately make love after his balls just got smashed.
Mushed up.
Yeah, they
dude.
got mushed up. Mads Mikkelsen is the man. Like you took it out of my. He's like really underwritten as Doctor Strange, but he's so good in this.
Oh yeah.
I'll talk about him. I have a recommendation of a movie with him. The whole Weeping Blood thing is random, but it's like how cocky and evil he is, despite being a little bitch with asthma and being chased after by warlords
and a messed up eye duct, like tear duct. Come on, man.
I also I gotta say I hate the
fixed.
guy who plays Mathis. I think he's awful. He's really good in the later movie.
There's a good single out.
Yeah, I mean,
Mathis sucks.
I don't really think that Bond gets to the emotional depths that I really want, that he gets even in like Quantum of Solace, Spectre, and Skyfall. And I just wish there were other great actors in it and that Judi Dench had more to do. So that's why I brought it down a little bit.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I see that.
All right, let's move on to our next category. Let's do eye candy and stick with Casino Royale. Eye candy is where we talk about all the visual elements of a movie. And that's going to be important here. So it's like with an action movie, you kind of want like great cinematography, like exciting visual scenes. Costuming is big in Bond, all that. So let's start with Casino Royale.
I know you have a buttload to talk about in this section, so I am going to go through my list really quick for Casino Royale. These are my scenes that are fantastic. I gave Casino Royale a 6. This is why. The car rolling scene, the intro parkour scene, Bond coming out of the water with shoulders that look like they were carved out of marble.
It looks like he has 10
Yummy,
abs.
yummy.
Yeah.
Get in my tummy.
I found myself salivating.
I am moist. Seriously though, the action scenes are incredible. I didn't even list the whole airport scene.
Yeah.
Is like heart-poundingly good.
I don't think it's like visually that great, the airport scene. It's just
all
cool
those chases
action.
in the plane that's like coming down and they're like, it's above us.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It kind of felt like a Nicolas Cage movie in that moment. for me, visually.
I suppose. But I think that
But yeah, the other scenes, I totally agree with you.
I don't think that there's anything in it visually that I'm going to say is like nothing is anything short of an excellent action movie.
For sure.
But Skyfall has another layer to it. But go ahead.
I gave it just slightly below you. I gave it a 5 out of 7.
I gave it a 5 initially, but I changed it to a 6.
Fair enough. I gave it a 5 out of 7. I do really like the parkour scene. It's one of my favorite chase sequences of all time. I like how it starts in black and white when they're introducing him, and they even do that weird, like, grainy kind of footage when it's showing his first kill, and then it's showing his second kill when that guy doesn't believe that he's a 00 agent because he hasn't killed.
Yeah.
And the way it cuts back and forth is really cool editing.
Your second one is...
Yeah. And because he has his bullets. I love how they film everything in Venice. When the building is sinking,
yes,
that is really cool. You're talking about him. The 2 Bond girls are muy yummy. His outfits are also awesome in this movie. I really like James Bond suits. You cream
switch.
over the cars. I'm creaming over the
dude. The
suits
DB5 is the best.
No, I don't care. Some of the filming dates it a little bit. That's my problem. It feels a little bit older, whereas like Skyfall, I mean...
as if it was older.
I mean, it was older, but it feels like a little dated now, where I don't think Skyfall is going to be dated that way.
There's a couple things I forgot to mention, too. Because you just mentioned these 2 scenes. The car roll scene is the longest car roll scene ever that uses...
Until this weekend, dude. Let's flip it.
But they use like an explosion or like a system that helps it
propels it.
Yeah, propels it like a propellant system. It's
nice.
the most flips using a propellant system.
I mean, honestly,
maybe that record's been broken, but it was at the time. And then the Venice scene is one of only 2 scenes in the whole movie that uses CGI.
Oh, cool. It doesn't really look like CGI, so I will give it credit for that. And I like the car rolling scene. I do have to say, a lot of the movie is, because of the substance of the movie, it's a lot of people talking in rooms and playing cards or whatever. And I thought it could have been more visually creative in the way it showed that. That would have really helped it because it's almost mundane, even though it's still, like I said, spectacular and exciting. So let's move on to Skyfall. I gave Casino Royale 5 out of 7. Nick gave it a 6 out of 7 in eye candy. Skyfall.
You start.
Okay, I mean, this is a 7 out of 7. Like, this is visually one of the most insane movies I've ever seen, and it's only become stronger over time, especially when I watched that video I sent you about cinematography.
Yeah.
This is shot by Roger Deakins, who is widely considered the best living cinematographer. Along with his work with the Coen Brothers movies like No Country for Old Men and Fargo, I mean, Blade Runner 2049 and 1917, he just absolutely kills it.
Yeah.
But this is probably one of my favorite filmed action movies. The biggest one that I love is the way he lights the scene at the end when he's fighting off Javier Bardem and it's nighttime and there's a fire in the distance. I mean, the way he does it, if you watch, is like he had this like tower of lights. And then when he is
cool.
inside the lake, it's unbelievably gorgeous. Watching the behind the scenes is great. I implore everyone to do that. The way he shoots everything at Skyfall, as you said, it's just insane. Especially the drive in, the landscape and everything. You know how I love landscapes. It's dope. I know
how landscapes are.
I know. I know you were saying that the Shanghai sequence was like a little slow for you, but the way he films it in that skyscraper is unreal. The whole little him on the edge of the boat going into the Macau casino is incredible. The shot of him, the shot of M in front of the coffins when all those agents had died and the building that got bombed is iconic. And the one with him on the rooftop is also iconic when it shows the whole skyline. There's a smooth transition from him falling into the water into the Bond theme at the beginning that I really like.
Oh, yeah.
I love when those blend well. I think Casino Royale does it well, too. Sam Mendes just really wanted to give us an artsy action movie, and it works. And he hired the best person possible for it. Roger Deakins is amazing. The only thing that I'd knock it for, the CGI Komodo dragons are so dumb.
Yeah, those
I will never
a
understand
little
that
over
choice.
the top. I would agree. All those shots you said, especially the DB5. Again, I'm really obsessed with that car. Driving through the countryside.
Oh, so cool.
The intro to Skyfall Manor, where they drive down a little bit, and then it kind of the shot sort of lowers, and then on the left third of the screen, there's the Skyfall, like this like brick.
That says that it's Skyfall.
And then with the stag on top, and then like the other 3/4 of the scene or the screen, I mean, are or like maybe 2/3 of the screen are the manor itself, and then like this amazingly
mountains and stuff.
Done countryside. Let's see. Everything that happens in Asia, although it's kind of a lull in the movie for me, is beautiful. The walking alone on the beach to that bar when he's in exile.
Yeah.
Is really cool looking. And then everything that happens in the scorpion scene.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention the island scene that's like kind of like Inception. That's like, what's it called in Inception when you fall into unknown space or whatever?
Wait, what?
What's it called in Inception when you fall into like what's that
Oh,
called?
I forget.
Why am I blanking on this name?
I don't
say
know.
it
I gotta
all the
rewatch
time.
that movie.
No, we use it all the time. Limbo. When they go into limbo, it looks like that when he goes to the island that Raul Silva took over.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like Skyfall with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I know what you're saying.
Cool. What did you give it out of 7?
I gave it a 7.
Oh, Nick,
Skyfall
my boy,
gets a
dude.
7.
You did that because you didn't want to make me angry.
No, I honestly appreciated it a lot watching it this time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What's
originality?
Let's do originality next.
Okay.
So why don't you start originality? We're just talking about the creativity.
We're
of the
gonna start with
movie.
Skyfall.
Yeah, you could explain a little bit what it is, but let's start with Skyfall.
Yeah, so originality is like, does the movie stand out in genre? Did it need to be made? We're talking about the genre as in like action movies, I think, here, because we have a specific category to talk about. Does it stand out amongst Bond movies?
Yeah.
But if we're starting with Skyfall, it definitely does itself a favor by having one of the most iconic Bond villains that I can think of off the top of my head in Javier Bardem. So having the choice, and I want to compare the villains in this because they're perfect for what the movie's trying to convey.
Yeah.
To have Bond face an adversary who is just as talented as Bond in Skyfall is, I think, a perfect and bold choice that makes it a little bit that much more original and that much more interesting to have this menacing, obviously sadistic, messed up character who you're told, although you don't really see it, is Bond's equal.
Yeah.
If not more like worthy or strong than Bond is, because he's like weakened.
Right.
Like even just having him weakened is an original choice for this movie.
Yeah.
I think it does well to make him more vulnerable and then remove him from
Make Bond
more vulnerable and then remove him from the elements that you're so used to with Bond and stick him in the Scottish countryside at his childhood home. Totally. And like give you more of his backstory, which is not something that a lot of Bond movies do.
Yeah, pretty much none of them do. I mean, you get glimpses of his background, for sure. What did you give it?
I gave it a 5.
Okay.
I don't think that it's still like an action flick. Like I don't think that there's a ton that's ultra original, but for a Bond movie, there's some original choices that work.
Yeah, I'm only a little. I'm slightly higher than that. I gave it a 6 out of 7. I mean. I just thought of this today. I mean, because I'm putting so many like comparisons between the two. This is the Dark Knight of James Bond movies. This is like him trying to be serious about it and give you a very compellingly terrifying villain. I'm not saying it's as good as Dark Knight. Dark Knight is an incredible movie. It's one of my favorites. It's similar in its style. A lot of what works for this is that it's making very creative changes to the typical Bond things that me and you both like, but we also probably like shake our heads at. And it's doing that with even the Craig series. It's kind of stepping away and being more self-reflective, but it doesn't like sacrifice its spectacularity while it's doing that.
Yeah,
It still keeps it engaging. I think it's amazing character writing for M and Bond in a way that we've never seen before, especially when you start with his distrust with her, and then you're hearing someone who really distrusted her and had to almost kill himself, but had like a failed cyanide capsule suicide to protect her. And he's kind of like he even at the beginning he's like told to abandon his like mortally wounded agent colleague, and Moneypenny shoots him. I think it just creates this like beautifully like tragic thing for him learning to understand why M made the decision she did, and that she is someone that raised him and stuff and cares about him. I think the story weaves around a lot. I think it's also about the death of their industry, the MI6 program. It's the death of
Really
the
cool
00
choice,
program.
too.
Yeah, which is more so Inspector, but this one for sure. And my problem with the writing, I'm bringing it down from a 7, and I do agree with you that it is. At the end of the day, it is an action spy thriller, so it's like not the most clever movie.
Right.
There's some question marks in the treatment of like one example, like from some of the writing that bothers me still is like he meets this woman, this Bond woman, the only Bond woman in this, Bond girl, sort of. I mean, there's one, like Moneypenny, I guess. But he meets this girl. She tells him that she used to be, or he knows that she used to be a sex worker when she was a child. And then he sneaks onto her boat while she's naked and showering, and just sneaks up behind her and then bangs her and then brings her to her death.
Yeah.
Like, I hated that.
He's
it's
ruthless,
this
man.
Dumb Bond trope that's like sexist, and I don't like that kind of writing. I also can't give it a 7 because it's based on like a lot of prior IP, and that's really tough.
Right.
Though let's talk about Casino Royale, because I think like that's an incredibly creative movie.
Yeah, I do think that it's a very classic Bond movie, though. Mm-hmm. Like it is his intro,
Casino Royale for sure.
The way that it works out is very classically Bond. So I really didn't give it a very high originality rating. I only gave it a 4.
Oh wow!
I think amongst the Bond movies, like it's obviously fantastic, but I don't think that originality is where it excels. I do think that the villain is very classic Bond, but I do think it's a smart decision to have him kind of minimized and like a weaker, like physically weaker person.
Right.
Because the whole point of, that's why I think it was interesting that we compared these two, is the whole point of Bond in this one is he's like super virile, super strong. He's
good word.
New to the game. He's rough around the edges. He's raw and uncut.
He's raw dog.
He's raw dog. And having Mads Mikkelsen's character be this like weaker but still menacing and like very classically Bond, and then he has like some strange but subtle physical ailment.
Yeah. That's also not a thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
The other thing is like there's too much poker, like you said, and if you don't know how to play poker, a good portion of this movie is like, trips what? What's of that?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. I don't think it's super original. I love it though, but I just don't think that this is the category it excels in.
I gave it like a little higher. I gave it a 5 out of 7. I think when you rewatch this movie, the writing, especially in the dialogue, as you were mentioning earlier, really stands out in this like incredibly unique way for Bond. It's like some of the best dialogue I've seen in a Bond movie, even though I've always loved Bond dialogue. Paul Haggis wrote this with a bunch of other people, and I think the problem is that a lot of the story is overly elaborate and convoluted, and I think that's because there's too many writers. It helps make it exhilarating, but it makes it like interesting with the scenes with Bond and Vesper are like, you don't want to look away, even though it's just a guy flirting with a girl. It's almost like a rom-com.
Yeah.
But it's great. I I really, what I like about this writing is that this was the first time we're seeing a way darker and grittier Bond. And I love that. And it came out of nowhere, and they just reshaped the franchise. If this movie didn't work, this franchise would have just been done because people didn't even know there was going to be another Bond. I mean, Pierce Brosnan didn't know that he wasn't Bond anymore until he found out that Daniel Craig was casted because Bond had almost died. I don't fully understand why they don't put Lashif like in custody, especially when they know that he was the one involved with the airport, like shorting
them trying to bomb and blow up a brand new airliner.
And then they don't even put him in custody when they know that he's like clearly in danger from the warlords or whatever, and they try to kill him. Instead, they just save him and then keep playing poker with him in case he loses, or else they accidentally give him a shit ton of money. Like that writing doesn't work for me.
No, it doesn't at all.
But I do
Especially
really
when you put it like that.
I do really respect that they stay away from like the campiness of Bond.
Oh, yeah,
and that goes into the writing. The ridiculous storytelling in earlier Bond movies is kind of annoying. But beyond that, it's not that creative. And there's like, if you go online, we love talking about pitch meetings.
Yeah.
There's a Casino Royale pitch meeting, and there's not a Skyfall one, and that usually means that the writing is there's more things to pick apart in writing. Even if Skyfall isn't a better movie, it's hard. Like the writing is harder to pick apart. So that's a 5 for me and a 4 from Nick. Let's talk about. Have we done originality for Skyfall?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's finish it off with our new category.
License to Thrill.
Yeah.
License to Thrill is a category that we came up with to replace Legacy because we want to talk about Legacy in the
Bond universe.
In the Bond universe, in the lens of Bond. And basically the question that we're trying to ask ourselves here is, did Bond earn his license to thrill in this movie? Is it a thrilling Bond flick? Does it hold up with all of the little Bond tropes?
Yeah,
we've gotten to experience over decades.
This is kind of like a subjective opinion about like your experience with Bond, like what tropes you
bondiness.
Like and what you like. We were just talking about originality.
It's the bondage.
The bondage, yeah. I mean, we were just talking about originality. It's like how creative they were with the tropes and like what they brought in to make us feel like, oh yes, I'm watching a classic Bond movie.
While we're here, I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
What is a Bond movie to you?
So a Bond movie is like a super suave spy goes off and does missions that are saving the world, but it's like it has to be more believable than Mission Impossible. They're not impossible missions. He's a spy. He's just like a high stakes spy. He's got to have nice suits. He's got to have a nice car. He's got to have some slightly poorly written women characters to fawn over, but that will get into
and
like what makes a good Bond movie.
There's got to be some like underbelly of like some mass conspiracy,
and there has to be a lot of deceit and a lot of people like stabbing each other in the back.
Lots of no trust, little trust.
Why don't you start with Casino Royale? Because you were really excited to do this because Casino Royale is one of your favorite Bond movies.
So Bond movie wise, I'm giving Casino Royale a 7.
Whoa!
It earns its license to thrill because this is Bond at the beginning. It's supposed to be number one Bond. Casino Royale was Fleming's first Bond novel. This is actually the second Casino Royale ever made. The first one is starring a man whose last name, George Lazenby is his name. He was Bond like 1.5 times. So it's not
my
good.
mom says the old Casino Royale is not good at all.
No, it's like supposed to be one of the worst ones. People don't even consider it part of the Bond franchise. But anyways, like it's a classic Bond movie. The plot may be convoluted, but a lot of them are. Ava Green betraying him is a letdown at the end, but that's so Bond that the woman that matches him, his equal, ends up being the one he can't be with because A, you're led to believe she dies, and
and that catapults this whole franchise with Daniel Craig.
Right. It launches everything forward.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's I think a perfect epitome of what a Bond movie is, because Bond he is suave, he is raw, he's like dastardly and outsmarts everybody. To use a Julie joke here, he works smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
Sure.
The biggest example of that is the
It works
parkour
pretty
scene.
fucking hard.
He does, but in the parkour scene,
Yeah, he outsmarts the guy.
he just outsmarts him like 50 times. The whole
And he
thing.
breaks a lot of laws, but yeah.
It's 157 laws.
Yeah.
At least.
At least.
It's amazing. I think it's like the epitome of a Bond movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because it is like the movie. It's convoluted, but it's not overly complex.
Right. Yeah, okay, so I gave it just a little bit lower. I gave it a 6 out of 7. I'll talk about the things I really like that it does with a Bond movie, because I love Bond movies, even the campy, stupid ones. I really like, he drinks a martini. Bond always drinks a martini, shaken, not stirred, and they have a really funny moment where he's like, I'll have a vodka martini, and the guy's like, shaken or stirred? And he's like, do I look like I give a damn? But then he also has a moment with Vesper where he creates a drink called the Vesper, which is like the classic Bond martini from the books.
Right.
And he carefully makes that. I thought that was cool. Really classic Bond beginning where they're introducing this new gritty Bond at the beginning of him being a double O, killing that guy. And then all Bond movies start with him shooting the camera. At some point, he shoots the camera, and then it goes into the Bond theme. And this one has one of the most clever of those moments when he kills the first two guys, but technically his first kill, the guy drowns him in a sink, but the guy doesn't actually die. And then even though it's like a scene afterwards ends, he kills another guy, it goes back to his first kill. And then the guy gets up, but Bond turns around and shoots him. And then it goes into the theme. I was like, wow, that's really clever because they got me. Because I'm waiting for this moment.
It's fantastic. Also, that line that the man that he kills says and that he cuts him off is so good.
Yeah.
Where he's don't worry, your second one is, and then he shoots him and he goes, he says
yes, considerably.
Yeah, that's
so
the
good.
line.
I actually wrote that I really thought the opening was a cool. The visuals for the opening were really cool, but it's a great song. It's really forgettable, the song, but it is a great song. He gets an awesome car and then wins it in the most boss Bond way. He wins it off the guy playing poker, and then that dude almost bangs that dude's wife.
100%. Side note, looks like Kramer.
He definitely looks like Kramer, but like. Kramer,
but Greek.
He looks like Kramer from Kazakhstan.
He looks like Borat and Kramer.
Yeah, M is great in this. We get a new love-hate, like mother-son relationship. But here's where my problem comes. You're missing out by not having Q in this movie. You don't have Moneypenny. You don't have a lot of the Bond characters. Besides the opening and the hotel fight with the warlord and I guess the airport scene, you're not getting a lot of awesome fight sequences with Bond, which are something that's classic for me. You could do it in a cool way. And though I respect flipping the thrills to have the card games, it's just not as exciting as most Bond movies.
So Bond though.
But it has one of my favorite endings when he finally says Bond. He doesn't say Bond, James Bond until the very end when he shoots a guy. He's like, "Who are you, Mr. Gray or whatever, or Mr. White?"
Mr. White.
And then
there's so
like,
many
Bond,
of those.
James Bond.
He also tries a vodka martini shaken not stirred, and then he goes, "Oh, I gotta
come up with a name.
For that." And it's. No, he calls it a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Yeah,
that's the name.
So I gave it a 6. I mean, it's one of my favorite Bond movies. We'll get into that.
I think it cheats its way into its 7 because it's so Bond. The bondage is so high on it.
It's not my favorite, and there are some things that it was missing, especially for bringing back Bond.
Fine.
Let's talk about Skyfall though.
Okay. Did you give it a 7?
Yeah, I mean, I
gave it
Bond.
a 6.
That's fine. I figured this would happen.
Yeah, because so here's the thing. I think that it's a much more triumphant movie. The redemption is a little bit like you only live twice. Like Bond tries this kind of like settling thing, but doesn't settle and can't, and has to return and has to be live this life and do this thing that he's built to do. Because orphans make the best recruits, and he was an orphan recruit. but because of that, because he's like it's not Bond and it is Bond. Like he's weakened, and like that is such a thing that Bond is always like, should I do it or should I not?
Right.
Can I do it? Did someone tell me I can't anymore to like revoke my license to kill, like that crappy Timothy Dalton one where they take his license to kill?
Yeah.
Like that's like such a Bond thing, but it's also like not as badass as the Bond that we see in Casino Royale. It's like a different type of Bond.
Yeah.
But it's the best that type of Bond out there. So I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. I give it a 7 out of 7. It's just full of all of my favorite even though I agree with you, it's still full of like all of my favorite Bond things. It has easily the best Bond villain of all time. Like he beats Ernst Blofeld from the earlier Bond movies. You could tell there's just so much respect in this movie for a lot of the old elements of Bond movies. The way he drinks, the car, the fact that he cares so much about the car. He cares so much about what he's wearing. But like, there's that really cool line by Vesper in Casino Royale where they're both like reading each other.
Yeah.
And she says, it's as if you wear your suits with disdain.
Yeah.
And that's what is cool about Daniel Craig. But in this one, he's just kind of like more like sexy, wearing all his like clothes and like really into it.
Jackets that are just a little too short for him.
Yeah. And you finally get a backstory on Bond. I mean, we've gotten glimpses of it over the years, but we finally get why he is the way he is in his orphan setting.
I just don't think that's a very Bond thing to do. I think it's cool and original, but I don't think it's very Bond.
Okay, but so if
it's not very Bond to know about Bond.
If I can explain my side of it is that I agree with you that it's not very Bond in a lot of ways, but certain elements of the Bond movie are at their best in this. Like best Bond villain. My favorite Bond song by Adele, like it's incredible. His love of scotch is like really in this. He has such a cool line when Javier Bardem like shoots the girl, and Bond clearly is messed up over it, but he goes like, that's a waste of good scotch or whatever. Yeah. His reaction to his car being destroyed is like so pure of Bond. He's like really upset over it. I really respect that they bring back Q and they bring that relationship, that like tit for tat relationship, and they have a new take on it. It's always one of my favorite things to have their interactions. A really spectacular end to Judi Dench's reign as M, while also bringing in Ralph Fiennes as the perfect like classic M.
Yeah.
It's cool to bring back Moneypenny, even though you don't know that until the end. This is just my favorite Bond movie. I think it's really daring and it takes it to a new height that the other ones didn't. Even though Casino Royale is so close to that, it's just kind of still has some campiness that doesn't bring it to the top level.
Totally.
But, okay, so that was a 6 out of 7 for Nick for Skyfall and a 7 out of 7 for me for our like Bond category, License to Thrill. Let us add it up.
Insert sounds that our friend Connor hasn't made for us yet.
Yeah, Connor, get us. All right, what did you give Casino Royale?
Casino Royale in total gets a 28 from me.
Okay, out of 35. And what about Skyfall?
Skyfall has a 30.
Boom. So I gave Skyfall 32 out of 35. It's nearly a perfect movie for me. I love Skyfall a lot. I know that's ridiculous because I'm so like into artsy movies. Casino Royale gets a 27, just slightly below out of 35, which is great. Honestly, they're both, I think out of 10 I put on IMDb, I put both were 9 out of 10. They're great.
58 to 62 then.
So Skyfall wins this one. Just slightly. 62 out of 70.
I wanted Casino Royale was my
but I think it's cool that your perspective changed a little bit when you rewatched.
It like kind of flipped for both, and like Skyfall is a better movie.
And I bet you thought I was gonna want to like shit on Casino Royale and just bring up Skyfall,
but
I didn't.
Hey, we're where we are. All right, what do we want to do? Top 5 Bonds?
Yeah, that's right, Uncle Lee. We criticize movies with reasons. Let's do, because we're normally in our accolade section we're gonna talk about MVP and LVP. There's no LVP really, and obviously the MVP is Bond.
Javier Bardem.
Or Javier Bardem.
It's the Rats.
Let's do each of our top 5 Bond movies of all time.
Number 5, go.
Number 5 for me is Dr. No, the OG,
nice.
the first Bond. It's slightly edged out Goldfinger for me.
My number 5 is GoldenEye.
Nice.
I loved that movie when I was
That is my
younger.
number 4.
Your number 4 is GoldenEye?
Yeah, I mean, GoldenEye is the Bond movie we grew up with.
Right.
He had Tomorrow Never Dies, which sucked, and The World Is Not Enough, which is even worse. But it was like
Christmas Jones is a terrible Bond girl name.
So bad. But GoldenEye, it's like even helped more by the N64 game.
You name
which we
your
all
kid
played.
Christmas? Just don't even.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Goldfinger.
Nice.
I love that movie.
It's so good. And did you notice in Casino Royale? Oh, not Casino Royale. In Quantum of Solace, they do a nod to it because the oil people like kill the girl and they douse her in olive oil, and she's like, not olive oil, all of oil.
All of oil.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Your number 3?
My number 3 is You Only Live Twice. I love You Only Live Twice.
Nice. That's a great one. That was my number 6.
That's the classic Bond movie I will watch all the time, even though it's racist and hasn't aged well.
For sure. My number 3 is Skyfall.
Wow, sick. Cool.
My number 2 is The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, that's cool.
That has always been, until Casino
that.
Royale, which is my number 1, my favorite Bond movie.
Okay.
I don't like Roger Moore at all.
Me neither. I don't know why I don't like it.
But the movie's great.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I don't know what it is about it. It's probably that the Golden Gun is like such a cool thing,
right.
But it's so weird and like just a fun movie to watch.
I think I'm gonna rewatch it. Yeah,
it's not a great movie, but it's like my number 1 and 2 just have like big I have a space saved for them. But number 1 is Casino Royale.
Yeah. All these movies, or a lot of the older ones, are on Amazon Prime right now. So if you guys haven't seen, especially the Sean Connery movies, go watch them.
Yeah, don't watch any of the Roger Moore ones.
Dr. No holds up, and it's the first Bond.
Actually, there's so many decent Roger Moore ones.
Yeah, I got to rewatch them.
Yeah, he just don't like
my number 2 is Casino Royale. I love it a lot.
What was your number 1?
My number 1 is Skyfall, dude. I love Skyfall. Thank you, Roger Deakins, for everything you've done. Enjoy your second Academy Award.
I purposely put one of each Bond on mine.
Yeah.
I've got 2 Craigs, but I've got a Craig, a Moore, a Craig, a Connery, and a Brosnan.
Nice. Sick.
Baby.
Cool. You have
Pussy Galore, Holly Goodhead, or Stephanie Broadchest? Go. Stephanie Broadchest.
Pussy Galore.
Stephanie Broadchest is the like alias that they give Ava Green when she's like undercover as the like Bond's lady.
Pussy Galore is what I shout when I walk into a bar. Yep. Or Cat Cafe. Nick, do you have any recommendations of any movies that you think people should watch that you like recently or have to do with Bond or something?
I want to recommend watching some of the Bond movies that we haven't gone out and probably watched. Moonraker's great. Man with the Golden Gun is great.
Octopussy
is
I'm
not
kidding.
actually.
Yeah.
It's not a very good one. Let's see. Thunderball's not bad.
Okay.
Live and Let Die is pretty good.
I don't like the beginning of Live and Let Die, but yeah.
But go out there and watch those. Those are fun. From Russia with Love.
Russia with Love is a good one.
Narrowly missed it. And if you have a chance, buy a GameCube and play some old timey PlayStation 2. Play some old timey Bond.
Or N64. Play GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye's a classic.
GoldenEye's
some of the like lower tier ones are pretty fun.
Yeah, on PS2 I had Tomorrow Never Dies or something.
Yeah,
it was so dumb. My recommendations aren't Bond. One of them I recommend. It's a little known movie. It's called Austin Powers. And no, I do think you guys. It's so funny how well Austin Powers makes fun of Bond. And now that I'm working in copyright law, like you could tell how carefully they made Austin Powers to not violate any copyright. It's honestly
that's awesome,
incredible. I have 2 ones. I think that if you guys don't really know Mads Mikkelsen, you should watch the movie The Hunt that he should have been nominated for Best Actor for. I'm gonna warn you right now, it's not an easy watch. It's about a guy who's wrongfully accused of a kindergarten teacher who's wrongfully accused of diddling a child, and that is actually a real term, by the way, diddling. So I could say that in a non-joking way. But it's incredible. It's him fighting for to make people believe him, and it's Mads Mikkelsen, and it's good. It's a foreign movie, but watch it. The other one is The Road to Perdition, which is like a really gritty sort of assassins movie about a dad and his son. Have you seen Road to Perdition? Mm-mm. It's by Sam Mendes. It's Tom Hanks. You haven't seen Road to Perdition?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man.
I'll watch it.
You would love... Just
I'll
watch the
it.
trailer.
Don't hurt me.
It's so good.
Don't kill me.
All right, Nick. Next week, we are doing Clueless versus Mean Girls with
Holly.
a very funny comedian, Holly Anna Brown.
He did robot arms when he said your name.
I did it
Holly.
like that.
Holly
she
Annabelle
is one of the hosts of Well, Actually, a show that we've been on before. So check that out. I think Mean Girls is on Hulu to watch. And Clueless always deserves a rent.
Listen
social
to,
media.
yeah, go ahead. You should listen to. Have you heard You've listened to Villains, Shea Serrano's.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The one
that he does on Regina George.
Yeah,
is
so good. Anyways,
I recommend that people buy Shea Serrano's book, movies, and other things because it's a hoot and a holler. You can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, instagram.com/facingoffpod. We are on Twitter, twitter.com/facingoffpod. If you want us to read emails at the beginning, like my mom, you can email us at facingoffpodcast@gmail.com. Honestly, go follow us on Instagram. Tell all your friends about it. We want to blow up. We are blowing up. We appreciate every one of you guys, but we want to take over the world and give you as much content as possible. So go hit us up on Instagram. I'd love to see you there. Nick, send off.
Last rat standing.
Welcome to Scotland!